This is the Honor 600 Pro and this is the Xiaomi 17. Both came out this year in 2026 and both have a retail price of £900. Now, I'm not sure which one to make my main phone, so let's put them head to head to see which is best. The design of both phones ironically copy iPhones. The Honor looks like the newer iPhone, whereas the Xiaomi looks like last generation's. The Honor does have some differences, not just on the camera bump, but at the top of the phone you have a speaker and an IR blaster. And on the side of the phone you have an additional button which is programmable with a single press, a double press or a long hold. I personally have disabled the single press because I'm always accidentally pressing it, but with the double press that will launch my camera app, and with a long press it puts it on silent. Now, I actually like the look of both phones, but if I had to pick one, I lean more towards the Xiaomi. I just think overall it has a cleaner look, and also they do little tricks like hiding the mandatory EU text a lot better than Honor. Now, flipping the phones over, you'll notice that the Honor does have the larger screen at 6.57 inches, whereas the Xiaomi is 6.3 inches. But on paper, the Xiaomi has the better display because it has a support of HDR10+ and Adobe Vision, and it's an AMOLED display that goes up to 120Hz and goes all the way down to 1Hz. The Honor also does have an AMOLED display, but it goes from 120Hz down to 60Hz, and it doesn't have the support with like Adobe Vision and HDR10+. The one thing that it does have going for it over the Xiaomi though is 8,000 nits of peak brightness, whereas the Xiaomi only has 3,500. So in the real world it is brighter. It's not twice as bright as the stats suggest, but it is a little bit brighter, and when you do put them side by side you can notice this. Now, even though on paper the Xiaomi is better, I have to say in real world use it's sharper on the Honor, it's more detailed on the Honor, and because it has a little bit more brightness, the colours are more vivid. So if I was to choose a display to watch content on, I'm going to pick the Honor. Now, we're currently even with the design going to Xiaomi and with the display going with Honor. Next up is battery, and this is an important one, and both batteries are actually very similar, with Xiaomi having a 6,330 mAh battery and Honor having a 6,400. Yes, that is bigger, but only slightly. And with charging, the Xiaomi can charge 100 watts wired or 50 watts wireless, whereas the Honor can charge 80 watts wired or 50 watts wireless. So with the wireless breaking even, the Xiaomi can charge faster. And once again, on paper, you would think the Xiaomi with the smaller screen, the newer chipset which is more efficient, and a very similar size battery would be the better battery phone. But in the real world testing, I'll show a little test I've got now. It only lasted an hour, so it's not a massive test that drains the battery fully, but I just wanted to see a few tasks, mostly watching content, how it performs. And I have to say, in real world use, the Honor actually performs better. Now, it's not a massive margin, they're both very good, and also of course for charging the Xiaomi is faster, but in general it's a much closer race than you think, and I have to give the edge slightly to Honor just because it does have that better display and it does technically last a little bit longer. Now, my best guess to why this is down to operating system. They're both running Android 16, but Xiaomi has HyperOS and Honor has magicOS. And I guess in this instance, magicOS is just more efficient. Now, when we look at the storage and RAM, both of them have the exact same RAM, 12GB, 12GB, the same. The storage though is different. For the 900 retail price, the Honor has 512GB, whereas the 900 retail price for the Xiaomi, it has 256, which is a bit smaller. For me, it's not a massive difference because if I ever get too much in terms of storage, I go to the cloud. But in general, I have to say the better value is with Honor. Now, with that RAM comes really good performance, and talking of performance, let's look at the chips. So the Honor has the Snapdragon 8 Elite, whereas the Xiaomi has the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5, which is this year's chip, where the Honor has last year's. And in terms of performance, the newest chip is way better. It's almost twice as fast in some instances, and in some benchmarks that I've personally done, it is quite a bit faster. Now, the only places you'll really notice the difference in performance is with high-end gaming, video editing, benchmarking. In general, everyday use, you're really not going to notice the difference on your everyday apps like Instagram, Facebook, X, YouTube, OnlyFans. I know what you like. In your everyday apps, both phones are going to work the exact same. Now, we talked about the design with the camera bump. Now let's talk about the cameras themselves. So with the Honor, you have 3 cameras on the back. You've got a 200 megapixel main shooter, a 50 megapixel telephoto, and a 12 megapixel ultra wide. Where on the Xiaomi, you have 3 cameras as well, a 50 megapixel main shooter, a 50 megapixel telephoto, and a 50 megapixel ultra wide. So this first photo is quite dimly lit, and I wanted to see how the main cameras react under low light. My first reaction is that the Honor takes a better photo in this environment, but when you do start to zoom in, you can actually see the detail is kept better on the Xiaomi. So it's one of those, if you did want to use the image and you wanted to edit it after, the Xiaomi technically is the better photo, but if you just wanted to upload it straight onto a sharing platform, then the Honor might be better because it just looks better straight off the bat. I also did a few more tests in super low light. I'm talking pitch black, and I'm actually really impressed that either phone was able to get an image because it was so dark. And I have to say, once again, in low light, the Xiaomi just blows it away. It does such a good job of capturing detail and also focus, whereas the Honor starts to fall apart. And I wanted to do this further testing just because it looked better originally on the Honor, but as you can see, the detail, everything about these photos in pitch black is much better on the Xiaomi. Now we have an outside shot which is really well lit, and you can see that both photos look fantastic. The detail in both is there, the colors look great. I want to say it looks better on the Honor, but that's just because the screen is brighter, and like I mentioned, it pulls out those colors and makes them look a little bit more vibrant. But in terms of detail, when you zoom in, both of them actually look really good, and I can't really pick a favorite because to my eye they both look basically the same. Now this photo is using the telephoto lens. On the Honor that's 7 times, and on the Xiaomi that's 5 times. So I've cropped in just a little bit on the Xiaomi to try and make it as even as possible, and I have to say it looks so much sharper on the Honor. It does look incredibly clean, a lot of detail. It is also better lit, but once again it's a brighter screen that loves to have those brighter photos, and I have to say I do prefer the Honor in this case. And here we have a video of some chickens, cause why not? And in both cases they look incredibly similar. This is shot at 4K 30 FPS. The focus looks good, the colors look good, everything is detailed and clear. I can't really pick a winner between these two. And here we have an example of a wide angle shot, and I have to say it's a much easier choice for me that the Xiaomi takes the better photo here. You have the gradient of the sky, which is much more natural, the colours of the corn or the field is much more natural as well, and the detail is also truer and better and higher detail on the Xiaomi. The Honor is a little bit of a letdown here, but it is the worst camera at 12 megapixels, whereas the Xiaomi has a 50 megapixel ultra wide. So this is a recording of the front-facing cameras. The Xiaomi can actually record 4K at 60 frames per second, but I'm recording at 30 frames per second because the Honor can only record 4K 30 FPS. So hopefully you'll be able to hear the differences in the mic. You also see the differences obviously in the video, and let me know which one thinks sounds best and looks best. And now looking at a picture from the front-facing camera, both front-facing cameras are 50 megapixels. Now this is quite hard to tell because I feel there's good detail in both photos. If I had to give the edge, I'm leaning more towards the Honor just because it is a little bit brighter. There seems to be a little bit better in color balance. Other than that though, they both take a good selfie. Now because the photos and videos are so close, I need you guys to tell me who you think won the camera test down below. Now let's just quickly listen to the speakers from both and I'll tell you about my experiences. So this is the Xiaomi on full volume.
Back before we blew it all, take me back to a place where I felt at home. Take me back to keep track of them all, from people dropping a bomb to people putting up walls. I feel like.
And this is the Honor at full volume as well.
Perception stuck in a vault. I know that time can heal all, but how much time till we fall? It's awfully chilly outside when there's no shelter to hide. When everything is a lie, you'll find that out in some time. But when the thing's on your
So my experience is they both sound very similar. The only thing that I will mention is with the Honor, there seems to be so much vibration from the speaker that you can almost hear a tinniness in most things you listen to, especially if it's very loud, because you can feel it vibrating when you're holding it. With the Xiaomi, there is some vibration, but it's nowhere near as strong as the Honor. So I have to give the edge in terms of speakers to the Xiaomi. Now let's talk about software. This is a big one. So you have HyperOS with the Xiaomi and you have magicOS on the Honor. Now they both come with bloatware. Some you can uninstall, but some that you can't. But with the Xiaomi on setup, if you choose your region as the US, it actually gets rid of all of these and makes it a much cleaner experience. With the Honor, you're not so lucky. Those you can't really get rid of unless you use a third-party app, or you have to root it, or you have to do some sort of extra steps to get rid of them. But even if you do all of that, if there was a major OS update, they'll come right back. But with the Xiaomi so far, they haven't. Now let's talk about some weird quirks with both software. Now with the Xiaomi, when watching YouTube and trying to minimize it into a window where you can move it around, that sometimes lags and takes a few seconds. Actually, with other cases of making content a windowed screen, there's a little bit of a lag, which is weird because that doesn't happen on the Honor. It's super fast, great animation, really quick, seamless. But on the Xiaomi, it always has a little bit of a lag and it's got the better, faster chip. On the other hand though, the Honor has weird bugs with certain apps, like with the Wallet app for instance. I sometimes have to try to open the Wallet app multiple times, and when it does open, I sometimes have to sign in multiple times, but in other cases, it opens straight away and I don't need to sign in again if I'm already signed in and unlocked. Really, really weird. And another one with the Honor with the keyboard, I use Google Keyboard on both of the phones, but with the Honor, it doesn't have a minimize keyboard button. In some cases, you can swipe away to minimize it, but there's certain apps and certain websites where I can't minimize it, which means it will hide some text or even some buttons I need to press behind the keyboard, which makes me not able to use certain websites or apps, which is really bad. Which is weird because on my Xiaomi I have a minimize button and I can't find anywhere online how to get the minimize button on the Honor. So if you guys know, let me know in the comments. Now there is some plus side to the software of the Honor where it has a ton of AI features, like it's got the picture to video, it's also got video editing, picture editing, it's got all this whole suite of AI features, which is great. A little bit gimmicky and something that I won't necessarily use a whole lot. So for me, it's nice to have, but it's not a deal breaker that the Xiaomi has less. So for the software, I have to give it to the Xiaomi just because the annoyance of that keyboard and also certain bugs with certain apps like the wallet, those not working can be kind of big deals, especially with some websites that I find it really hard to use because of the keyboard issue, and also with the wallet keep bugging out. If I'm late for a train and I'm trying to use the tap to go and it's just not working or it keeps crashing, that's just a nightmare. With the Xiaomi, the biggest letdown is that with certain apps, when you're trying to minimize it or turn it into the window, it takes a second to load, or sometimes it lags a little bit. That's not a massive deal breaker. I can live with that, especially as all other aspects work well. Now, price can be a big factor. For me, it isn't because I've purchased both of them already, so the decision on which is better is purely just from a standpoint of performance. But if you guys are interested in the best deals on both phones, I'll link down below different places where I found the best deals and also where I purchased it as well, just so you can see roughly what the price is from when you're watching this video, because I didn't pay £900 for either phone. There was a deal on both phones. So I'll try to list all the best deals down below. So in this video, the conclusion is the Xiaomi won, but it was super close. And there is some areas that are really important to me, like the display, that the Honor won. So the major letdown was the software. And if that is fixed, it could be a whole new game. And I will mention that at the end of the year, Honor with magicOS is supposed to have an update. And at the end of the year, HyperOS with Xiaomi is supposed to have a major update as well. So those big software updates could change this whole thing. And if you guys are interested in a new video just purely based off those new major OS updates? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to know what you guys think of both phones also down below. Don't forget to like and share this video. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. And I'll see you guys next time.